What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 24 of the Silver and Gold. I'm Josh.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're coming to you a little bit later than we wanted to today. We are currently streaming during the Monday Night Football game between the Vikings and the Bears, in which there's a shootout. And the score was actually 9-3 a minute ago. So I was just kidding. It wasn't a shootout. But the Vikings just scored a touchdown, and now it is 10-9. So there I go, making dumb jokes that turned into, it turned into touchdowns, right? But today we're going to do things a little bit differently, where we're going to have the Raiders sort of go first, because I feel like the past couple of weeks we've been starting off with the Niners and then going into the Raiders. But the Raiders are going to be going on a bye week, and we're going to save the Niners Eagles talk for the end. So we appreciate you guys checking us out. If you're checking us out live, if you're not, you can skip to the end or wait until the end. But we appreciate you guys watching the stream. And let's go ahead and kick it off. Mike, the Raiders lost to the Chiefs on Sunday, and we both picked the Raiders to lose this game, but I feel like maybe you had mixed emotions about maybe the Raiders had a chance to pull off that victory during the game, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about it? I mean, it's okay if you don't want to talk about it. It's like, I'll pat you on the back, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, early on in this game, the Raiders went up big. I want to say they went up 14-0 at one point in this game. And I texted our group chat like, the Raiders are winning this game. And my reasoning was, when Josh Jacobs is winning, the Raiders win. And Josh Jacobs had just ran for a 63-yard touchdown, and I was like, if this is the way the game's going, we're gonna win. And at the time, the offense was playing very well, and the defense was getting necessary stops against the Chiefs' offense. Obviously, again, 14-0, right? The final score was 17-31. So clearly, things hit a complete stop after that drive where Josh Jacobs ran for 63 yards, and I opened my mouth about 5 minutes too soon. Or, texted in a group chat 5 minutes too soon, but nonetheless. But, yeah, I mean, the first two drives on offense and defense were pretty much perfect. Aiden O'Connell was on fire early, really, I mean, even the entire game, pretty much. Like, this was his best game passing, I would say. But especially early on, he threw some dimes in this game. I actually sent you a tweet. If you want to kind of play it as I talk for a little bit. Let me see who this is from.
Is it the one from Marcus Johnson?
Yeah. So from Marcus Johnson on X, Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
But just a couple of I guess, coaching decisions I want to kind of touch on while you play this. These are really good plays from Aiden O'Connell. But there was a 3rd-and-1 play where Devontae Adams, made a catch and he went upfield a little bit and got tackled, and it was pretty close to the line to gain first down.
Mhm.
And he was marked short, and I saw the first replay and I was like, I think he got it. And then I see that Antonio Pierce to the challenge flag. And I'm like, okay, cool. I think he's going to get it. And then they show a slow-mo, and I'm like, his knee was down. He's clearly short. So now what are we doing? We're losing a timeout against the Chiefs in the first quarter of the game.
Mhm.
And it wasn't, sorry, I don't know if I clarified. It wasn't 3rd down. It was 2nd down. So then it became 3rd-and-1. So he threw a challenge to try to get first down on 2nd down when he's still, even if you don't get the first down off the initial replay or official ruling, not through a challenge, you have 2 more plays to get the first down, right?
Mhm.
So why waste the potential timeout for 1 yard? I get that it's the Chiefs and you want to play big, but really, if you want to be the Chiefs, you have to go out there and you have to go for it on 4th down sometimes, like the Lions do, like the Chargers do, like those teams are willing to do. And again, early on, the offense was playing great. They were on a roll. Like, I feel like they could have gone for it on 4th-and-1 and possibly got it if they didn't, do a dumb play call. But that was like midfield, maybe on the 40-yard line on our side of the 50-yard line, right? Later I think in that drive, the Raiders got stuck on like 4th-and-1, and it was on maybe like the 10-yard line, maybe the 20-yard line, I forget where. And they got stopped, and I think the Chiefs might have took a timeout or something weird happened. I don't think any timeout was called, but the offense stayed on the field for like 10 seconds, and then the camera panned to Antonio Pierce, and he like put his hands up like this, and then the field goal unit starts going up on the field. And again, it was like on the 10-yard line, 20-yard line in the red zone, 4th-and-1. Instead of going for it, and I don't know, I'm assuming going up. I think that was when it was 7-0. Carlson kicks a field goal and he misses the field goal. So obviously that hurts. It's like, well, if you went for it and you got it, it could have been 14-0. And then the following drive, Josh Jacobs goes for a 63-yard rush. For all we know, we could have gone up 21-0. There's always a butterfly effect. If they make the touchdown, then maybe they don't get the 63-yard rush, right? But regardless, it's like to beat the Chiefs, you kind of have to play big boy football, and they were being pretty conservative with 3rd-and-1, 4th-and-1, right? Playing it very safe, or when it came to challenges, kind of not doing that. So just last week when I was talking about Antonio Pierce, I was saying he's made some coaching decisions that I don't exactly agree with. This falls in line with that, right? And I feel like there was another one late in the game, but I'm not seeing it right here. But it was late in the game. I think the Raiders were already out of it, and the Chiefs are in the red zone, and the Raiders had to call timeout on defense with like 3, maybe 4 minutes left in the game on like a big 3rd down play because they had 12 men on the field. Or at least that's what the announcer said. But then they called, Antonio Pierce calls timeout. It's like his first in the second half. So now he's got 2 left, 3 to 4 minutes left in the game. You're down like 2 possessions. And then the camera pans to Max Crosby, who came off the field, and he's like pissed off and stuff. The previous play, Max Crosby got tripped up by like a tight end, and he kind of stayed down a little longer than usual on the field, right? I almost wonder if the timeout was taken just to get Crosby off the field because he was hurting. He was doubtful to play, and then by miracle he played, right? And then finally he goes down. He stays on a little longer than usual. that next play, 30 seconds later, timeout's called, get him off the field. So I thought that was weird, but the game was kind of over at that point. So if that's what they were doing, I don't exactly blame them, right? But I did think it was odd. But
So my question for you is, the offense scored 17 points, right? Um, you said Aiden O'Connell really played well, throughout the game, and Josh Jacobs was, seemed to be having a great game. What do you think is responsible for the offense only putting up 17 points, from your perspective?
it's got to be the conservative play calling. Like, I think O'Connell was making fine choices. And again, early in the game, he was making some of those throws that were like, wow, like that's a pro quarterback. That's a guy who starts in this league throwing like that. But then it was a lot of short yardage, and then trying to run Jacobs, but it doesn't work. Jacobs went for, I think it's 20 carries for 110 yards. But 63 of those yards came on one rush. So 19 carries for 50 is his average if you take away that one rush, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not a good average. So I think the Chiefs were stopping the run, and they were forcing the Raiders to beat them through Aiden O'Connell. And although I would say he had his best game, it still wasn't enough to beat the Chiefs. And really, like, the way I feel, and just to give a couple other stats, I mean, Aiden O'Connell, 23 for 33, 248, no interceptions, one touchdown. Jacoby Myers, 6 receptions, 79 yards, a touchdown. Devontae Adams, 5 receptions for 73 yards.
Mm-hmm.
No fumbles for the offense. I don't even think they turned the ball over. I really don't think so. But I don't think the Chiefs did either. And that was kind of a big difference in past Raider games. They've been averaging like 3 turnovers on defense, for the Raiders. And in this game, they get none. So that's probably part of it. And then the Chiefs, once they started getting going, it was uphill for them, and it was stagnant for the Raiders because it went from 14-0 to almost not scoring again the rest of the game. So really, I think to summarize, the Aiden O'Connell, Antonio Pierce, and Bo Hardigree experience so far, the Raiders offense seems to start the game really well prepared. Like, it's well scripted or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But then in-game and halftime adjustments are clearly not their strength. They are not good at that. They do not adjust well, and their opposing team, who is coached by a coach that has been coaching since the offseason, right, has a lot more experience than Antonio Pierce and Bo Hardigree. It shows. So I think when they play a high-end offense like Kansas City or Miami, it's not a winning formula to depend on your defense to keep you in the game, because that's what the Raiders have been doing, their defense. Against the Jets and the Giants, sure. Yeah, it's doable. But against the Chiefs and the Dolphins, it's not going to work. I can't really expect much better from what we have. I mean, I'd like to see Jacobs get 30 touches and take over a game, but that's really a lot to ask,
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to see Devontae Adams take over a game, but that's a lot to ask when you have a rookie quarterback who was never expected to be a starter, especially not in his rookie season,
Well, after the preseason, I think it was hard to keep him off the field over Garoppolo.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I don't know. It's the preparedness and pairing him with literally a rookie offensive coordinator and a rookie head coach. It's like their ability to game plan and adjust in game is vital, and it feels like they don't really have that, ability. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think leading up into the Chiefs game, I think we were talking about how this might be the best Kansas City Chiefs defense that they've had since, the Patrick Mahomes era, So I don't think it was solely, you know, on the, like the Raiders shooting themselves in the foot as to why they couldn't score more than 17 points. But on the other end of, the Raiders play, they just couldn't stop Kansas City. And I mean, most teams really can't. I would say this season, Kansas City has been a lot more inconsistent, but they were coming off a bye. They were coming off a bye, right? Or was that week 10? No. They had a bye week 10. Sorry. Excuse me. So
Yeah, you're good. The only reason I know that they weren't coming off a bye is because like the 3 seasons or so prior to this season, that was always a thing with the Chiefs facing the Raiders. Was every season they would face the Raiders coming off the bye, and Andy Reid's like 17-0 coming off the bye or some shit. It's like, thanks, So
yeah, and then also too, you see the main difference in a lot of football games comes down to the two most important, positions, I guess, in football. I know you can make the case offensive line is very important, but I have to say, aside from offensive line, it's head coach and quarterback. And I don't think there's a team in the world that has a better head coach and quarterback. They have like the two best in their respective categories. So it was an uphill battle for the Raiders, and unfortunately they couldn't take them down. But in a couple of weeks, the Raiders are going to have to see this team again, this time in Arrowhead. And I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I don't know what adjustments will have to be made by then, but I do know on the defensive side, the Raiders did make maybe not an adjustment, but they did make a move. And we have breaking news that Marcus Peters has been released by the Raiders. And Mike and I, just a couple months ago, were talking about how this was a great signing for the Raiders. And now we kind of have to, eat our words. But at the time, it really seemed like he was going to be a veteran that was really able to contribute to the secondary. And really, he had at least one interception where he made a great play where he's, jumping a route, and, he takes gambles as a player. And, a lot of times earlier on in his career, it would work out for him. But, he's kind of aging a little bit, and he's not as quick as he used to be. So I don't know, Mike, you tell me how you feel about this move.
Well, to add to that, I'm not really gonna even eat my words. Like my feeling on him kind of soured relatively quickly. Probably along the lines of with Jimmy Garoppolo and Josh McDaniels, but because he was on the defensive side, it felt like, oh, it's not quite the same, which it isn't. But some of the tweets I was reading, it almost sounds like he was loyal to Josh McDaniels and he's just trying to sabotage the defense. No, I'm just kidding. No, but
the one player that's loyal to Josh McDaniels.
Right. Okay, this is from John Ledyard at Ledyard NFL Draft. I'm assuming he was watching film on the Raiders the past couple weeks, and he says, Peters was doing whatever he wanted on the tape this week. Oh, maybe whether it was against the Chiefs or the Dolphins. I'm not sure which, because I don't even know how much he played against the Chiefs, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Call didn't matter, just ran wherever he felt like on the field. Dude is too funny. So if this guy knows what he's talking about and he knows coverages and he knows that Peters is not following the coverage and just going wherever the fuck he wants on the field, come on, right? Like that's not even being a team player. That's just you trying to do whatever you want to do. Like, come on. I sent you a tweet, by the way, but we'll watch it in a second. I had been noticing for weeks now that he would not give his all in an attempt to make a tackle most of the time. And even his he was very soft in coverage. And I think really, honestly, I think he was just trying to get interceptions. He wasn't trying to get tackles. He wasn't trying to get he wasn't trying to stop receivers. He was just trying to get picks, I think. Like
Mhm.
that's what it almost looks like. Cuz to be that soft in coverage is like he's almost trying to bait the quarterback into throwing it and oh, I might have a shot here. But I had also heard reports mid-season or early on in the season he was dealing with a back injury. So I just kind of took that as a good excuse cuz back injuries are not fun. But there comes a point where it's like, well, you're still a pro and you're getting paid pretty well. So it's either don't play and let guys like Jacorian Bennett play, who was inactive against the Chiefs, or get cut, right? Or
Feels
play harder.
airdropping stuff to you.
No, it's not an airdrop. That's my text message alert.
Oh,
That's the group chat. That's Tyler going off. But
um,
I sent you that video if you can play it right now. It's the second one
yeah,
there.
I've got it right up and ready by Logan Reaver.
Yeah.
Okay, so it says Marcus Peters was standing alone at the 50 during the drive. Stayed there while the rest of the defense met on the bench after giving up that score. Peters and Antonio Pierce dapped each other up before halftime, but it looks like there was some disagreement in the conversation. Hashtag Raiders. Okay, so this is Marcus Peters right here.
Yeah, and the beanie.
Okay.
So I mean, the entire defense met on the bench after giving up a score. Probably talking about whatever,
Mm-hmm.
trying to recoup, and he wasn't a part of it.
Now, is this the
very
defense on the field right now?
no, that's probably special teams getting ready to kick off. I see Amik Robertson sitting on the bench, Robert Spillane, Divine Diablo, so they probably had already done the group meeting or whatever you want to call it immediately
Mm-hmm.
after the score, and Peters just wasn't a part of it. This is after the fact, and it looks like Antonio Pierce confronting him about it.
Mm-hmm. Kind of unrelated, but you know what I don't understand about this clip at all? So this is special teams right here. What is Jimmy Garoppolo doing coming off the field?
Probably
What
talking to somebody.
what business did he have? You know what I mean? Like, all right, guys, you go out and get him. You know?
He's just going through his 2 o'clock stretch.
Yeah, I don't know. But going back to Marcus Peters, yeah, I think I sent you something last night that it was like a report that he was going to be very likely released either last night or today, and the news broke today, right? That he was being released. So
Yeah, and within 5 minutes of that, it was also announced that Roderick Teamer was also getting released. The special teams backup safety. He was just coming off of IR, just getting activated this week. He was going to play this past Sunday against the Chiefs, and the morning of the game, he got a DUI. Cut.
mm-hmm. So let's see.
And he was a solid special teamer, and at times, especially in the preseason, but even last year in the regular season, he would get on the field at safety at times when called upon and make solid plays. It's just a little boneheaded to go out there and catch a DUI right before game day. It's I don't know. I'm not in their lifestyle or anything as far as being a pro football player, but I feel like you can afford to call a ride or call a teammate, right?
How do you
It,
spell Roderick Teamer? I'm trying to look for it because I did see that earlier today
it should
on
be
Twitter.
Rod Erick Teamer. Team ER. But
Okay,
more of the story, don't drink and drive. It's not worth it.
I don't understand, because this is a much bigger issue. Henry Ruggs has gotten in trouble for it. Um, Marshawn Lynch, even though he wasn't on the Raiders, he got arrested for a DUI, I believe, in Vegas. Um, this player got a DUI. Josh Jacobs got a DUI in Vegas. You
I
move a
want to say
football
Josh
team to
Jacobs.
Vegas, huh?
Sorry. I want to say Josh Jacobs crashed his car.
Oh, you didn't get a DUI, but he.
I think he got a DUI too, but he also, because he has a scar on his forehead
Mhm.
from the car crash.
You move a team to Vegas, they're gonna, like the players, they're human. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna do things that are Vegas actions, and unfortunately, things can't always. Whatever happens in Vegas, if it's by law and you're a high profile person, it's gonna come out. TMZ is gonna get a hold of it. Everybody's gonna get a hold of it. And unfortunately for Roderick Teamer, it cost him his job right now. And luckily, it doesn't seem like anybody's gotten hurt, based on any reports. But it's definitely, I would not advise anybody to drink and drive.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean the Vegas thing, I'm sure it is an aspect, and it certainly lends itself a great ability for players to go out and have fun and get drunk and make mistakes. But at the end of the day, it's up to those players, right? And I think these teams try to implement, like, for lack of a better term, support systems, not like because they need it, but more of like, hey, um, this lifestyle is pretty crazy and you need to protect yourself or whatever it may be, right? And I mean, I've kind of always believed the I've always had the mindset that whether it's Vegas or it could be Miami or it could be New York or it could be San Francisco or Los Angeles, like all of those cities present itself the ability to do these things. Houston, Dallas. Um, but I get it for Vegas with the strip, but I think at the end of the day it's the players, and maybe the Raiders are just cursed, but I'll admit, being in Vegas doesn't help, but I don't know. I maybe the Raiders organization needs to do a better job of implementing systems and really making sure that their players know, like, hey, if you're drunk, call
Call
us.
someone.
Yeah.
There's
So
plenty of people to call.
yeah.
But maybe they're all drunk too. And it's just a matter of, who's going to be driving tonight and who's going to get
Yeah.
caught. So, I mean, no, that's
Yeah.
a terrible joke. But really, it's a very unfortunate pattern to notice about the Raiders because they've over time they've had players getting in and out of trouble, coaches. It's a very unfortunate pattern, but I can't help but notice DUIs specifically. They are more. I think I just noticed them more. They've been more apparent in Vegas. So, but the Raiders aren't the only team that deals with DUIs. Like just a couple weeks ago, Chris Olave got a DUI, didn't he?
Yeah, the Saints have been having a few things go on, and then a crazy one that like really went under the radar was Zay Jones, former Raider receiver, now with the Jaguars. He's been on IR, if not on IR, out for like the past 6 weeks or something. He got hit with a what do you call that? at-home violence.
Oh, domestic violence?
Domestic violence. Thank you, Jesus Christ. Yeah, he got hit with one of those, and I was like, oh man, if he were on the Raiders, he'd be cut like this morning, But
Mhm.
it came and went. So okay.
Now, what do most of these players have in common? I've said it before in the group chat.
Listen, Josh, you don't need to make this about race.
What? No. No. No.
I'm kidding.
No.
I'm kidding. I know what you're gonna
Jesus
say.
Christ. Jesus
Yeah, no,
Christ. No.
it's a bad
What do
joke.
all
I'm
these
kidding.
Yeah, we already
Say
lost
it.
like a million
Just say
viewers.
it.
No, it's over.
Yeah,
No. They were all teammates with Derek Carr.
yeah.
Well, most of them were. Jeez. Way to throw me under the bus. I wasn't even like thinking that. I promise you I had like no intention, but hearing it back, I'm like, oh my God. That was that sounds like something that someone would say. So
Yeah, I was just busting your balls. I knew where you were going with it. You've said it like a couple times in group chat, and it's like it is weird. Like
Carr goes to New
digging,
Orleans, and now all these issues are going on with those guys. So
yeah, but then also his former receivers, Zay Jones, and then back when he was with the Raiders, Antonio Brown, Henry Ruggs. The list goes on. It's like
could it be that Derek Carr is so devoted to his faith that everyone is just sick and tired of it, and they're like, "Man, I'm never gonna be that devoted," and then they just like, in order to compensate for the amount of like, religious sort of uh, spirituality that Derek Carr just his aura, they just try to combat it to be as like do as many sins as possible. Like, I don't know.
the thought process just, Derek will pray for me.
Because it's like isn't it a thing when you have very strict parents or something, not that Derek Carr is a father figure to any of these people, that's ridiculous, but if you have strict parents, you're more likely to want freedom in the future, like
Or
you're
to
more
lash
likely
out.
to act out, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a weird trend uh, that I honestly doubt actually has any correlation with Derek Carr.
It does.
But
It really doesn't. It doesn't have
yeah,
any correlation with Derek Carr. I just
but
noticed the
it's
coincidence, and it's like
yeah,
kind of funny to throw up. Like, this is all Derek Carr's fault.
yeah. Let's
It's
just
like,
blame him.
oh, another former Derek Carr teammate. It's just the strangest coincidence. So let's just blame it on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So Marcus Peters actually wasn't teammates with Derek Carr, but he didn't get into a DUI. So he
True.
just straight up got cut or waived, I guess is the
Yeah.
proper term.
But Roderick Tamer was his teammate.
Yeah. This wasn't his first season with the Raiders, right? Teamer?
No, this is like his third.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So those 2 years with Derek Carr were the worst of his life, and now he's acting out.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Before we move on, we got a couple comments. Fonzie said, "What's up, guys?" Fonzie, thank you for checking us out again. I apologize for like the schedule mix and match over the past couple weeks. I know normally you catch the shows pretty regularly every Monday, but we've had to do like Tuesday here and there. But we appreciate you coming back. Same thing with Chicano. We appreciate you for checking us out again. So
Good evening.
stay tuned for the Niner stuff, Fonzie and Chicano. I know you guys are Niner guys. But before we get onto that, let's discuss the Raiders bye week. Mike, are there any changes or anything that you want to see from the Raiders going into the bye? Or is this just like, write it out as it is? Let's try and lose some games, tank for a quarterback. How are you feeling?
It's a great question. Well, it's funny. It's funny because I just recently got Madden, and I started playing franchise mode, and I simmed the season to like the current point. So I played the Chiefs game, and I wasn't expecting to win the Chiefs game, but in Madden, obviously I won, right? So then I'm 6-6 going into the bye week. Then I come out and I face the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, I win that game too. I'm 7-6. Like, okay. Meanwhile, the Broncos are like 8-5 or something. Like, the Broncos have gone on an insane win streak right now. I don't know who they're facing in the next couple weeks, but they're right there. They went from like what 1-4 to like they might be 6-4 or something, right? That sounds about right. It's insane, but or they're 5-5, but still, but that's enough. Nice talk about the Broncos.
I think the Broncos are 5-5.
Yeah, I want
Let
to
me
say.
let me double check that. Let me double check.
But yeah, I was playing Madden. I was like, it's still
They're 6-5. Wow.
okay. Yeah, and they're tied with. Well, actually, they're above the Bills now because the Bills lost, so they're 6-6. I want to say, right?
Let me pull up the playoff picture again, an updated one. But I'm pretty sure the Broncos are in as of right now. Oh, they're not.
If they're not, it's like the Texans and Colts.
Yeah, let me go ahead and share the screen real quick.
Cool.
Because I feel like it sort of branches in on what you would want the Raiders to do.
Yeah.
So
the
we got
Jags
the Ravens
are tied with the Chiefs.
Yeah, Jags and Chiefs.
And the Dolphins. The Steelers just beat. Who did they just beat? Oh, that was the Bengals, right?
Yeah, they
week
just
12 because we're going into week 13. And then the Browns just lost to the Broncos, which is huge for playoff implications. But I mean, upcoming schedule for the Raiders. What is it? Obviously, bye week, Minnesota, Chargers, then Chiefs.
The Raiders' remaining schedule, they've got the Vikings after their bye week. Then they've got the Chargers, Chiefs, Colts, Broncos.
And suddenly the Broncos sound like a hard team to beat, and the Colts are the 7th seed, so they're no slouch either. I don't know. The Raiders are in this weird spot where and I mean, right there, you can see the Vikings are the 7th seed as well. I mean, the Raiders could very well lose out and earn themselves like a top 8 pick. They could also win out of 5 games left. They could win 3 of them and end out 1 game below 500. And all things considered, starting a rookie quarterback most of the season, yada, 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 interim head coach, not bad, right? I don't really know what I want. Like, I think the biggest thing that I was feeling has already been done, which is get rid of Marcus Peters and let the young players go out there and play and see what you have in them. So Jacorian Bennett, I don't want to see him inactive another game this season. And the last time I said I don't want to see this again this season, it happened with Jimmy Garoppolo not playing for the Raiders so far. Knock on wood, right? But I want to see Jacorian Bennett playing every single game. I want to see him getting starts. I want to see him on the field, right? I don't care if he gets burned. Like, let him play. Like, you just lost a game that you kind of needed. And you have a lot of tough games coming up against, other than the Chargers, playoff teams right now. So,
real quick, I do want to take this comment. This has been a while since FA has checked us out. We appreciate you for coming back. As for the Chiefs, they can kick rocks, but they just demolished the Raiders. So, go on, Mike. Sorry.
No, you're good. I do appreciate the comment. I didn't know if we were going to ever see him again. I should have known that this would be the week that we'd see him.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. So,
yeah.
I was like, I did kind of think in the back of my mind, like, when the Raiders play the Chiefs, he's going to come back.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, and it's funny because, like, early on in the Chiefs game, I'm kind of backtracking here, but, it was 14-0 Raiders, and I'm thinking, like, dude, we might beat the Chiefs. And I was just sitting there like, damn it, I really said the Raiders are going to lose this week and, like, bet it on the pod and everything. Like, damn it. Because early in the offseason, maybe it was the episode, like end of the preseason episode. I said, I guarantee we're going to beat the Chiefs once this season. Let me just
I do
say
remember you saying that.
that was when I thought that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be good, and I didn't think we were going to be starting a rookie quarterback or have an interim coaching staff, right? So,
Well, newsflash: the quarterback that they have is better than Jimmy Garoppolo, and the
right,
coach they have is better than Josh McDaniels, and it still wasn't
yes,
enough to beat the Chiefs.
yeah, but that's a pretty low bar in hindsight,
Yeah.
Um, and I think the issue with like a rookie quarterback is, like I said, preparedness, and interim head coach who has never coached in the NFL, like coordinator or head coach before, preparedness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's tough. But I I was thinking about this, and this is another like kind of off track thing here. But the obviously we'll get into this soon, but the Niners beat the Seahawks, and I was seeing like TikToks and people on Twitter and stuff about like, oh man, I've been waiting for this moment. Like I've been waiting for times like this when the Niners would clearly be better than the Seahawks and beat their ass on Thanksgiving and really get to like kind of
Eat the
show like,
turkey.
yeah, and eat the turkey, but just also like just to say like, okay, our team is better and it's clear, and we're gonna kick their ass. They're not gonna kick our ass anymore. Dating back to like Richard Sherman and the Legion of Boom and all that, right? Seahawks winning NFC championships and Super Bowls, and the Niners not doing that in that time frame. Those were times that sucked for you guys. Right now, we are the Niners and the Chiefs are the Seahawks. And yet it feels worse because they have the best player in football and probably the best coach in football. I cannot wait. I don't care if what was his name? Was it Hefe
Hefe.
or Hefe? Yeah. I don't know if he's here, but I can't wait for the day that the Raiders are clearly the better team and kick their ass every single time that they face them. I cannot
You
wait.
you know what I'll say? I would say it's less like Niners Seahawks and more like um, maybe the Rams and Seahawks or the Cardinals and Seahawks. But I get what you mean. It's like this team just has like the dominance, but I feel like it's a
Well,
little bit of a different
it's a little
situation.
different because the Raiders aren't like making the playoffs every here and there and like winning playoff games like maybe the Niners did at that time. But if you asked any Chiefs fan who their number one rival is, they would say the Raiders. And if you ask any Raider fan who their number one rival is, they're gonna say the Chiefs. Like this
Well,
is top rival versus top rival,
mhm.
and like
I
we
would
hate them. We hate each
I would
other.
say any Chiefs fan would say that either the Bengals or the Bills are their rival because any Chiefs fan just came out of nowhere about like 5 years ago.
Okay,
But
well that's fair.
I mean, no offense, Hefe. What one thing I will say though is the reason why I said that it's a little bit different between like the Seahawks Niner rivalry and the Chiefs Raider rivalry is because the Niners and the Seahawks, it was like whoever was going to win those NFC championship games was going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Or not. I guess they only played once in the NFC championship, but
but it still felt like whoever came out on top in the playoffs is like the favorite in the NFC.
yeah,
Like I
it
said,
was like
it
they
is
were the
different.
top two teams in football.
Yeah, it is different because yes, it's like the Raiders aren't this team that's pretty dominant, winning playoff games, yada yada yada. It's just they're still trying to figure it out. It's been a 21-year endeavor of how are we going to get back to the Super Bowl? How are we going to build the roster, the team to do that? And 20 years, a new city, a new stadium, still many quarterbacks, many coaches, and it's still ongoing. When they get it right, it's going to be fun. It's going to be
Mhm.
long awaited for many fans,
Yeah.
and people will not hear the end of it.
But just to further the point, the level of heartbreak, because like the Chiefs are like clearly the number one in that division, right?
Right.
And they're just kicking everyone else while they're down.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I know I don't really need to further explain it, but just because I want to add this because I'm traumatized, the Niners and the Seahawks were like neck and neck, and then it's like we're both at the top. The trophy's right there in front of us. And then what's that song? The Star Wars, the Duel of the Fates. It's like Duel of the Fates right there. And then, the Niners are Anakin Skywalker getting their legs chopped off. It's and then now we're finally back as Darth Vader. The Empire Strikes Back.
There you go. Usually the Raiders get the Star Wars comparisons, but I'll give it to you.
Well, the Raiders will get it when they earn it back. No, I'm just
Well, I hope they earn it back soon. I'm tired of it.
I'm just playing with you Raider fans.
So in the bye week,
in
the bye week, I'm hoping for a major turnaround. I want to see us win out, go to the playoffs, and win a Super Bowl this year. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. But I don't know. I said it a couple weeks ago, probably 2 podcasts ago. Like, this is the point in the season where you're probably not making the playoffs. We'll see how it goes. I'd like to see them win. I'd still love to see them beat the Chiefs, but I don't expect it in their house, right? But I guess I think the last game that I actually really care about is probably the Broncos game. I want to keep that record going. And if it's like, if the Broncos win, they're in, I want to spoil it for them, right? But other than that, like, I think I probably am back to square one, and like I would love to see them earn themselves a pretty high draft pick for the insurance of, hey, if we are looking to get a quarterback, we have a pretty great, draft pick to show to another team if we want to trade up, right? So say they earn the 6th or 7th overall pick and they want to go trade up to 2 overall, 3rd overall. It's not a big jump for that team. Maybe they just give up their first for next year, or even 2nd rounder this year and another pick or something, and it gets the job done. But we'll see. But the other aspect to it is put your young players out on the field, get them the ball, and see what you have in them, and see who is worth keeping, who is not worth keeping, and move on from there in the offseason. And as an organization, look towards what's our coaching staff going to look like, and who is going to be our quarterback.
Hire Harbaugh as soon as possible. There's going to be a lot of head coaching vacancies, and he's got to be the top person on everybody's board, and that's even if he wants to return to the NFL. And that's a whole nother debate. We can save that for the end of the season. Right now, Antonio Pierce is still fighting for that job. But the further we get along, like you said, the little mistakes that he makes here and there, or like the little questionable decisions, it's looking less and less like maybe he's the right fit long term. And really, if you're not doing something long term in the NFL, like, people don't really do rentals except for like quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Like, Jimmy Garoppolo should have just been a rental for this year, and then they doubled down and restructured him. But I'm telling you right now, Harbaugh is the best coaching candidate on the market, hands down.
I still don't know if it's hands down, and obviously I have yet to fully look at like a full-blown list of coaching candidates. I mean, when you compare him to like Josh McDaniels, Frank Reich, probably Ron Rivera, like, yeah, I would take Jim Harbaugh. But I think once you start seeing offensive coordinators might be out there, like a Ben Johnson or maybe the Dolphins offensive coordinator, it becomes more interesting. And I also I I see what the Texans are doing, and I can't help but think that that's still exactly what I want for this team, which is a defensive minded head coach that focuses on building a great defense paired with drafting and you have to get lucky, a little lucky, or at least be really correct here. Draft the quarterback, right? They drafted
Mhm.
CJ Stroud, and in 6 months since the draft, or however many months it's been, maybe 7, 8 months, it's like they're set. Now all they need to do is build up their defense, and they will be in the running to win Super Bowls for the next 10 years. Just like that, because they have a defensive minded head coach who has proven to lead great defenses. And their defense hasn't proven that they're a top 10 defense or anything like that, but they also drafted a defensive end at third overall who was at one point supposed to be the first overall pick. Just if they just keep building and building, they already have Derek Stingley. It's like keep building on that defense. You have the Tank Dell and CJ Stroud connection. Get a little running game implemented as well. They're going to be a top 3 team in the AFC for 10 plus years. Watch.
Yeah, I mean, so long as everybody stays healthy, knock on wood, right?
Yeah.
Because you never know. Like, it can take one play to absolutely change the trajectory of a franchise.
100%.
Like with the 49ers, we saw with Lance when he got injured, it completely changed everything, and it led to the emergence of Brock Purdy. And I think we're ready to move on into that territory. What do you think?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and transition to the 49ers versus Seahawks recap. Mike, do you seem to remember a time this season where the Niners were on a 3-game losing streak?
I do.
It feels like forever ago, doesn't it?
Do you seem to remember a lot of Niner fans freaking out during that period? And I came onto this podcast and said there's literally no reason to freak out.
Nope, don't remember. No, I'm just playing. I absolutely do remember. It seems
because
like
I
you
know
were
how
right.
this shit goes.
It seems like you were right, Mike. Now, let me do you one better. Do you seem to remember a time where the Seahawks ate turkey at the 49ers 50-yard line on Thanksgiving in 2014? As I remember it like it was yesterday.
I do.
But you know what was the other day in reality?
Thanksgiving.
Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and all these Niner stars eating turkey on the Seahawks logo. I mean, you know, it's really not that big of a deal, but it's the symbolism behind it because of, like I said earlier in the pod, I'm traumatized as a Niner fan. Forget the Seahawks, dude. I don't like the Seahawks. I really don't. Like, they have inflicted so much pain on me. I remember being like a 13-year-old boy watching the game in just the other room, and Navarro Bowman steals the ball in the NFC Championship. He rips the ball away from the receiver and then like completely gets his leg demolished, and they still called it Seahawks ball and it wasn't reviewable. And I was crying. I was standing right there like actually crying. This team has absolutely like aged me.
For reference, what grade were you in school?
I was a
Probably
freshman
middle
in high
school.
school.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think I was a freshman in high school at that point. I was a wee lad.
Yeah.
But man, the Niners, they got off to a pretty good start in this game. You know, things were kind of up and down here. I think they kind of stagnated maybe a little bit in the third quarter, but then they kind of got back to it and put the game, to bed late. It almost feels like forever ago because everybody's like already looking towards the next matchup. And even before this last week, we were talking about how everybody is not even focused on this Niners Seahawks game. They're just focused on the Niners Eagles game. But really, the significance of the victory against the Seahawks is we went into their house, we won. We're gonna have to play them in, after this Eagles game, so like in 2 weeks, we're gonna see them at Levi's, and the Niners have a good shot to sweep the NFC West for 2 years in a row. That's a big deal. They haven't lost to an NFC West opponent since 2021.
Yeah,
So
I wish I could say that about the Raiders. I think the last time the Raiders swept the AFC West was like 2011, I think, and the Raiders ended out with like 7 wins,
no,
or
I think they were
maybe
8-8.
6, maybe 8. But it was like, dude, you got 6 wins out of your division, and you couldn't win your
More,
division.
yeah.
Like, I was just like, oh my fucking that again. I just know how this shit goes. Like, I knew when the Niners were struggling for 3 weeks in a row that they were going to figure it out and be perfectly fine. They still totally have a shot at the 1 seed. If the Bills had beaten the Eagles, you would have had a much better shot. But, yeah. But we're still talking Seahawks. So
Okay. Going back, so just imagine a traumatized me, just watching this game, and I'm gonna be a little honest. It felt good, but it doesn't make up for the lost time. It felt good, but it doesn't. It wasn't like a playoff, like NFC Championship level game against the Seahawks. I know we bounced them from the playoffs last year pretty easily. Purdy played very well in that game. But let me talk about like the little things in this game that really stood out to me were that it's been now 2 weeks where I've been really impressed with Shanahan and Purdy, because I'm impressed with Shanahan in the fact that as soon as Debo came back, he started getting creative with lining Debo up in the backfield and really alleviating some of the pressure off of Christian McCaffrey, and it forces the defense to spread out because you've got McCaffrey going one way, you got Debo going the other way. Defenses, I mean, that's pretty hard to stop. Like, damned if you pick this guy, damned if you don't. It's really it keeps them on their heels, and it's a guessing game, right? So props to Shanahan for that adjustment that he's made since getting Debo back. Also, props to Brock Purdy because, I mean, aside from the pick six, he played a really solid game. The pick six was a really bad throw, and it was a really easy throw, but it's, I think, the first pick six that he's had all year. I know he had a couple in training camp, I think, but he put the game away later on when Shanahan said that he should have hit a check down, or the play was called to hit a check down to, it was either Kittle or Juszczyk, where while the zone coverage was like really backed off, and Purdy decided, nah, screw that. I'm going to hit a deep ball to Ayuk in between like 3 or 4 defenders, and he got in for the touchdown. And I ran outside and I yelled. You know what I mean? I was so happy because, dude, Ayuk is he's having a great season. They really, I think, should feature him more in the offense because he's one of their better weapons. Did you know, Mike? I just learned this before the show. Did you know that Brandon Ayuk has a larger wingspan than Eric Armstead? Eric Armstead's 6'8", and Brandon Ayuk, I think, has a 6'9", a wingspan of somebody who's 6'9". That's crazy. Yeah. But he's got great hands. He might drop a ball here and there. It's kind of rare. I know there was that one play that sort of jumps to mind where a ball hit him like right in the helmet, and he wasn't able to come down with it. And there's also that other play during the playoffs against the Seahawks where Purdy made what would have been like one of the best plays of the year last year, where he's like shaking off defenders and then like stops and throws that ball to the back of the end zone. It was a dime, and Ayuk didn't catch it. So that was also against the Seahawks. But it was really a great read by Purdy and a great decision because as a Niner fan, I don't think we've had a lot of quarterbacks recently who decide to push it rather than take the check down. You know? And it looked a little bit like, this guy is really improving. Over the past 2 weeks, he's been hitting throws like the throw last week to Ayuk. It was a dime. Yeah, I mean he's improving. So, I have been impressed with Purdy in that regard. As for the pick six, he can make a better throw. He will make a better throw. I think that if he shows that he's been improving the deep ball, he can absolutely improve the short stuff, which is his bread and butter anyway. So maybe I'm just being overly optimistic as a fan, but I mean, really, did you have anything that stood out to you during the game? Because it was on Thanksgiving. Like, I'm pretty sure most people were able to catch it, like with their family and whatnot.
I mean, the main thing that stuck out to me was Debo. He was just going absolutely nuclear the first half of that game. A lot of targets, wide open most of the time. And that was something I had said like a week or two ago, is like when they get Trent Williams and Debo back, like that offense is going to be back to 100%. And again, they're going to be fine, and they have been. So I think that's the main thing. Like heading into the playoffs, it's less about like what seed you have. It's more about, are you healthy? If you guys are healthy, you are the force to be reckoned with. I don't think that there are really any teams that can outman you. I don't know, outstrength you.
Like bully us.
Yeah, there's no team that can bully you. I don't really think so.
There is one team that might, but we'll talk about that in the next topic.
Yeah. But as far as standing out to me, I didn't catch Purdy's stats, but I felt like at least in the first half, because I didn't really get to see the second half because I ended up driving up to my mom's. But in the first half, it seemed like he was just like completing everything.
Brock Purdy finished 21 of 30, so above 66%, with 209 yards, 1 touchdown, one interception. The touchdown was pretty sweet. The interception was pretty bad, but overall, not a terrible game. Pretty good. And like I said, he's improving in those areas that I wanted to see improvement from him, for. What were you saying?
No, that was it for me.
Oh. Yeah, like honestly, I'm ready to go into the next topic. We were kind of quick on the Niners Seahawks recap. I really mainly talked about just the trauma and getting over it and how it was great. But I look forward to seeing the Seahawks in 2 weeks. But before that, before we move on to the Eagles, let's take a couple comments. So Anthony says Anthony's got the Raider flags. Anthony, thank you again for coming back, checking us out. And Anthony also says that Eric Bieniemy should be a hot head coaching candidate. I did say this a couple weeks ago, and he comes from Kansas City. He's in Washington right now, but Sam Howell looks actually pretty good.
Sam Howell looks good. And also, I mean, we got the breaking news the other day or yesterday or whatever day it was that, the Panthers fired or this morning. I don't remember, but the Panthers fired their head coach. And then like 20 minutes later, they fired their offensive coordinator and their quarterback coach, or their running back coach. I forget, but they fired a couple of coaches.
Their quarterback coach and their running back coach. Yeah. So the running back coach was also the assistant coach.
Yeah. So it was like Deuce Staley and McCown.
Josh McCown.
Yeah. But I feel like the writing has been on the wall since like opening week, that Ron Rivera's seat was pretty hot. this season, and they're like a 4-win team. Like he's not gonna keep his job. I could see him getting fired in like 2 weeks, and one of two things happens: either Eric Bieniemy is the interim head coach, or he gets fired as well. But either way, if Ron Rivera gets fired, there's a high likelihood that Eric Bieniemy will just be on the open market come the offseason. And I'm not saying that he's my favorite target for the Raiders because I've also felt, as far as writing on the wall goes, that something was odd between him and the Chiefs, and I didn't entirely like the vibe of that. And the fact that he never got a head coaching job with how hot his name always, like the past 2 seasons, 2 off seasons, his name was, very hot. So the fact that he never got a job, I just was like, okay, well, why is that? For as hot of a name as his was, like, why wouldn't he get a job? But that's more speculation. But I do agree that I think he will be a big candidate in most. The biggest reason being how good their quarterback is playing this season, like unexpectedly.
And to Eric Bieniemy's credit, the Chiefs' offense hasn't been as consistent without him. He made a lateral move to go to Washington, and the Chiefs, I mean, you can attribute that to the receivers, but something hasn't been clicking.
I think it's mostly personnel for the Chiefs. I think losing Tyreek Hill is huge.
Well, they won a Super Bowl last year without Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. I just think the play calling was always the same because it was Andy Reid. Obviously, Bieniemy had an input on it, but But with Washington, it's like their quarterback is playing well. That's a good thing. So, and their personnel isn't like all the best in the world either. So, I don't know. His name will be interesting. I do believe that.
Mm-hmm. PS says, "Cook the bird." Honestly, it's really funny that Pia mentions this, but like, I don't even think I mentioned it on the pod. The Niners have like the gauntlet of every bird in the NFL except for the Falcons over the next couple weeks. They've got the Eagles next week. They've got the Seahawks. Then it might be the Ravens after that, and then the Cardinals, or it might be Cardinals then Ravens.
Yeah, is the only non-bird the Rams?
Have
they already faced them twice?
No, they're gonna play, I think, the final game of the season.
Okay. I feel like it's probably, if I had to guess the order, it's Eagles, Seahawks, Cardinals, Ravens, Rams.
Here, let me pull it up. 49ers schedule.
Because I know Ravens are on Christmas, and if Rams are the final week, it's probably the week after that.
Okay, so the order is Eagles, Seahawks again, and then Cardinals, Ravens, Commanders, Rams. So literally, the Niners cooked the Seahawks, had some turkey, so they had their fresh plate of birds, and now for the next 4 weeks, they're gonna have even more birds on their plate, literally.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so we definitely cooked them. Let's hope that we can continue cooking them. Adam, thank you for checking out the live stream. Says, I think he thinks his focus is on the draft already.
And obviously, this is for the Raiders here. Yeah, looking back on our conversation about the bye week and stuff. Yeah, I mean, my focus is always on the draft, like deep down, but that's because half the time, I'm not really expecting playoffs, unfortunately. But there's a high likelihood that there's a lot of teams with like 4 or 5 wins right now. Like, you add on the bye week, and then the Vikings, who now really need a win, and they're going to get Justin Jefferson back healthy coming off a bye week against the Raiders. That's a very losable game. And then you have the Chiefs, and then you have the Colts, right? Either way, the Colts are the 7th seed right now, and then you have the Broncos, who might be one of the hottest teams in football. So I think I had missed a team in there somewhere, but a lot of
the Colts and then the Broncos are last. You guys definitely have the Chiefs one more time, and the Chargers another time.
Oh, the
You know,
Chargers. That's who I forgot. Which the Chargers, any given week, they could put up 40 points. So they literally could lose out. Obviously, they don't want to, but I'm not trying to be super negative here. But as far as the Raiders go, but they can have a really high draft pick still, and that could be good for Adam for sure, and me honestly.
but I mean, here's the thing: there's still a lot of teams that are still below the Raiders in the seeding. So
Yeah,
like,
but that's what I'm saying is like there's a lot of those teams that are like they're either tied or because the Raiders haven't had a bye yet, the Raiders have one less loss. So it's like they're 5-5 or 5-7 now or whatever they are. Um, right? What the hell?
Raiders
What
are
the
five
hell?
and seven.
5-7. Like there are probably a couple of 4-8, 5-8 teams that come after the Raiders bye week might be above the Raiders in standings just through 1 week. And then if we
Mm-hmm.
lose to the Vikings, you tack on another loss, you tack on a couple more wins to those teams. Suddenly we have the 9th overall pick in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's crazy how quickly it could shift. But we'll see how they play. Again, I think the focus right now is still on the players, who's worth keeping, who's worth starting next year, and all that. What positions do we have needs at, and then we'll see how the draft pick falls.
Mm-hmm. Just as long as the Raiders don't trade several first round picks to get up to get a quarterback, because it has not worked at all for the last two teams to do it. And, those teams being the
Yeah, the
Panthers, and I won't
Panthers,
disclose the other team.
right. Yeah, I'd rather just earn the pick and have somebody nice fall to us. But then again, the Chiefs also traded up from like 25th overall to 12th or 10th to get Mahomes. So you really never know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I just
And
hope that
that's
whatever the Raiders do, it's the right choice. You know.
and that's the thing. Like, you know, I don't think Raider fans care. Like, all right, if you guys tank the rest of the season and then you get like a top pick and you get one of the top quarterbacks in the draft, Raider fans are going to be hyped and buy tickets next year. It's not like ticket sales are going to be hindered. They're not going to, that stadium's not going to be empty.
No, well, that's the thing about that stadium. For one thing, it'll never be empty. But what you really want is for your home team fans to show up. Which having Antonio Pierce take over, I know we've been on the Niners, but maybe because we're taking comments, we might be in the middle of it. So hopefully this is fine. But um, when McDaniels got fired and they hired uh, Antonio Pierce and they put out that hype video and everything, like I went to the Giants game. I literally was like, I have to go, and the tickets were cheap and yada yada yada, and it was good. And then the Jets game, like it really looked like a lot of Raider fans in there, and then even the Chiefs game, like the crowd was in it, and like it really sounded like a Raider home game, and I think that was the loudest I had ever heard it on TV in Vegas for like Raider scores, like 14-0. It was loud. That Jacobs run, it was loud. There was a lot less red in there than I had seen in previous years versus the Chiefs at Allegiant because the fans want to be there. So yeah, it sucks if like things sour and then they get a new head coach and it's a whole new process. Yes, but if you go out there and you draft a quarterback, you're damn right. They're going to show up because they're going to be hyped on that quarterback. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
matter of getting the right guy. So,
And, you know, what will get Raider fans not hyped and not want to show up?
uh, hiring
No, nothing to
John
do with
Gruden.
hiring. Nothing to do
Okay.
with hiring. Just
Uh,
barely missing the playoffs and not getting a high enough pick to be able to take a top quarterback.
yeah, the big fear and recurring theme for this team. If they just keep going on a repeating cycle of 8-9, 7-10, 6-11, and earning a 12th to 15th overall pick, not being able to get a quarterback, and then you know what happens? Here's what happens, okay? You can draft a good left tackle 15th overall named Colt Miller. Cool. Well, 3 years from then, your right tackle suddenly, or in a year from then, your right tackle's contract is up and he's hitting free agency. Oh, and you can't afford him. Now you have to draft a right tackle and you draft Alex Leatherwood. It's like it keeps fucking teetering. It's like you have to draft well. You have to keep those players. You have to develop your players. And that's where coaching staffs come in. That's why I'm so big on keeping Patrick Graham, is because this defense cannot have turnover again. What will happen is if they hire a guy like Jim Harbaugh and he says, I want my guy, and he goes and gets Mike Zimmer or Rex Ryan, and those guys decide, I'm going to run this 4-3 base defense, yada, 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 blah, 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 and Divine Diablo, Trevon Merrick, and Jacorian Bennett and Tyree Wilson do not fit my defense. I'm going to trade 2 of them. I'm going to cut the other 2. Oh my God, I will lose my mind. I will lose my mind because
until it works.
Yeah, but it'll take years. It's like it's working right now. If you
Harbaugh has shown results immediately. He shows results immediately.
He has, but the Raiders haven't. So which is going to break? Which trend is going to break? Because
I want to find out. I'm really excited to find out. I hope he goes to the Raiders. I want to see. Like, all right, the two. I want to see the two trends collide and see which one. Are the Raiders so shitty that even Harbaugh can't work out, or is Harbaugh so great that even the Raiders can't, hold him back? Right. I want to know. I've been saying it for how many years, Mike?
It has the potential to be interesting, obviously. I just can't help but think that the trend would be the Raiders overpaying a coach because it'll be a bidding war. A coach who has a big name and ego and expectation, who does not get the job done. Within 3 years, they fire him, and they look even more stupid than the last head coach, which was Josh McDaniels. Then the last head coach, which was John Gruden. Then the last head coach, which was Jack Del Rio. Then the last head coach, which was Dennis Allen, Tony Sparano, or whoever. So
before Del Rio might have been Tony Sparano, and then before him was Dennis Allen.
Yeah. Before him, Hugh Jackson. But it just, I can't help but think what the Raiders need is like, and I've said this before, and this is my last point here, is just they need a guy who's more like, it's either you need Harbaugh to like implement the system and like fully turn around the culture. Okay, it can work. Or you need the guy who is just like chip on his shoulder, has never done this before. And I'm not trying to describe Antonio Pierce. I'm trying to describe who's a guy who's actually like ready for the job. Like, say, Ben Johnson from the Lions. A guy like, I always forget his name, but the coach for the Texans.
D'Amico Ryans.
Like, a guy like him would be perfect. And I've seen the Dolphins, Frank Smith, the offensive coordinator, like, I read a big, long article on him, and I was, like, really impressed with him. I mean, Dan Quinn would be cool, but I don't see him leaving Dallas, and I don't know if it would work, so. But I do see Jim Harbaugh being a top, like, 3 option. It's just he's going to be top dollar. It's going to be another coach that Mark Davis has to overpay, and if it doesn't work, it's like, if these overpaid coaches can't work, how the hell can you expect, like, some nobody to make it work, you know? But I feel like a Dan Campbell is what you would need, a complete nobody that just turns around the locker room and everybody buys in.
Well, all right. You're saying you would rather have a mystery box, somebody come in who's going to get paid handsomely regardless. You know, you're going to come in and be the Raiders coach. You're going to get paid. You would rather have a mystery box and somebody who, like, it's not guaranteed it's going to work with Harbaugh, but it's worked everywhere he's gone. You know what? Like, that is the best candidate. He absolutely has the best track record of everyone. Unless Bill Belichick gets fired. And do you want Bill Belichick?
No, he's probably towards the bottom.
Yeah. But, you know, going back to the, you know, what the Raiders should do, the focus on the draft, I did kind of think of this. You remember that scene from Waterboy where Rob Schneider goes, "Oh no, we suck again." It's if the Raiders start winning some games, "Oh no, we're good again."
Yeah, I mean,
you.
it's.
I know you've had those moments.
Oh
You've
yeah,
had those moments.
The biggest moment that has ever happened to me was when. What year was Nick Bosa drafted? 2019.
Yes.
So the 2018 season when the Raiders played the Cardinals, and it was like whoever won that game. Well, whoever lost that game had a high likelihood of getting the first overall pick because they weren't going to win any of the games. And at the end of the game, like the final 4 minutes, it was like punt after punt after punt. They were punting to the opposing team, just begging them to score on them. But obviously the defense was still trying, but it's like I was sitting there like, please, for the love of God, let the Cardinals score. Lose the game. Earn the first pick. You can choose between Kyler Murray or Nick Bosa. And they needed defensive end bad. I was screaming Bosa. Funny how, I would have been right, but they won the game. They ended up earning somehow the fourth overall pick, even though they got slaughtered by the Niners that year. I felt like they should have been above the Niners, but whatever. And we get Cleveland Farrell, they get Nick Bosa. It's funny how that shit works.
At least it wasn't the coin flip.
Yeah, I mean, that one wasn't as big of a deal, and it actually worked out in the Raiders' favor, but...
Yeah. I mean, you guys...
It's funny how...
I wish we had Colton Miller over McGlinchey.
Right. But anyway, that is the number one thing I am looking forward to at this point is, I'm curious to see how the rest of the season goes. I'm curious to see how the players play and see, like, okay, what do we really need here? But, like, the coaching decision, that is what I'm most intrigued in for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then the draft.
Fun fact, since we mentioned that draft with McGlinchey was so bad that Pia's dad still brings up McGlinchey as to why the Niners had so much problems on offense before. Still to this day, every single game. And then he compares, because he doesn't even say McGlinchey. He just says, oh, when they had 69, 69 was ruining everything because the quarterback knows that the pressure is going to come from the right side. And now, the Niners have 68 on the right side with Colton McKivitz. And, it's just sort of like McKivitz, in a way, has become the new McGlinchey, but he's not nearly as bad in pass protection. So, anyways, moving on. Mike, are the Niners going to beat the Eagles this week?
I wish I could ask you first.
Let me talk about it. There's one team that I say stands in the way more than other teams in the NFL, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles, especially since they're in the same conference and they have a 2-game lead over the 49ers for the 1 seed, which would mean that in the playoffs, the 49ers would have to travel back to Philadelphia if they're both still in playoff contention. Like, let's just say for an NFC championship game, just like last year, and sort of have the rematch of last year. I pray to God we don't ever get the same outcome like we did last year. But, I'm going to let you go first on your prediction, but I'll just say this. The Eagles have a fantastic offensive line, a fantastic defensive line. They've got a great team. They've got great weapons at receiver. DeAndre Swift seems to be a bigger upgrade over Miles Sanders than I think people give credit for. Jalen Hurts is still pushing, still getting his tush pushed. Got a lot of things riding against us. That Philly crowd is going to be absolutely pumped with all that adrenaline off of the stuff that Deebo Samuel was saying. Go ahead, chime in, Mike.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, continue your point. Just continue.
I'm scared. Just put your pants back on. How about that? No. Where was I? Mike's over here throwing me off. I guess I'll give my prediction first. With all that being said, this is going to be absolutely the hardest matchup that the 49ers will have all season long, except arguably the Ravens. The Ravens game is going to be pretty tough in a couple weeks, but I really think that the Eagles are kind of like, the Niners would have to get through the Eagles first in order to see the Ravens in a potential Super Bowl, right? Oh, you're back, Mike?
Yeah, I'm back. Continue.
Oh, no, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Just continue, please.
Okay, I notice your attire has changed to green.
Maybe.
No. Is that an Eagles?
Oh,
Oh,
it hurts so good.
oh my God. All right, that's it. All right, welcome to the Gold and Gold. I'm Josh, and I'm Josh. No,
You see that
doing the show
trophy right there? This man won me that trophy.
You know what? I just spanked you in fantasy this week, dude.
Yeah, you
Don't
did.
even start. I've won 3 championships, okay? You have 1. Because of Damari. Okay. Oh, switching it to green. All right, why don't you give the prediction? Who is going to win this week, Mike?
All right. EAGLES. Eagles are going down. The Niners are going to win this game. The Niners are going to win.
Wow. Because
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, I agree. I was going to pick the Niners. I know I just absolutely inflated the Eagles, but everyone's inflating the Eagles. And that's why I think the Niners have an absolute chip on their shoulder. They absolutely have something to prove. And when this team has their back against the wall and has something to prove, they step up. And it's not the playoffs yet. So we haven't seen the crisis moment in the playoffs. We'll see it this year at some point. But I don't know. The Eagles, to me, kind of strike me as like they've been a little inconsistent this year. They haven't had that same confidence that I've seen from them last year, but they've still been winning games is the thing. And I know they just had a really high scoring shootout with the Buffalo Bills, but the Niners defense is much better than the Bills defense this year. The weather was bad in that game, no question. That, you know what? If it rains, I'm picking the Eagles.
Yeah,
Let me
I can
check the
see
weather.
that.
Let me check the weather, because that is a huge factor. Shanahan teams perform terribly in the rain. They don't prepare well for that. And then we're gonna sit back here talking about, all right, the Niners are in the 3rd seed behind the Lions, and so that's actually a factor I didn't consider. I want to put that in my prediction. If it rains, I'm going to Eagles. If it doesn't rain, I'm going Niners. Let's see.
Go ahead and look it up. I'm picking the Niners simply because the Niners are healthier. I think Lane Johnson's hurt right now. Their tight end, Dallas Goedert, is hurt right now. I don't know if they're going to be healthy for the game. I mean, the Bills almost pulled it off against them, but I feel like the Niners' defensive line will do a better job against Jalen Hurts than the Bills' defensive line. I don't know how the Niners' defensive backs will do in pass coverage. I mean, Ward was killing it against DK Metcalf on Thanksgiving, but I don't know if he'll keep that up against A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. I feel like they have better receivers for sure. I think Jalen Hurts is special. That's exactly the quarterback I wish the Raiders could have. And I did notice in that Bills game that Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle, went down. I don't know if he's actually hurt or if he just got the wind knocked out of him, but that's a big loss. If he can't play against the Niners, that's big for the run defense against McCaffrey on the inside. I don't know. I just feel like the Niners at full strength versus the Eagles at like 90% full strength. And I think the Niners having a bit bigger of a chip on their shoulder. I feel like the Niners will go in there and, you know, pull out the win. Whereas I guess the one thing with the Eagles for me is like they've won almost every game. And if it weren't for, of all people, Zach Wilson, they'd be undefeated right now. But it feels to me like every game the Eagles have been in have been within 2 scores. Like usually around like 10 points, you know? Like they're close games and the Eagles pull it out in like the fourth quarter. Not very many dominant wins, whereas like the Niners, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, this team, that team, you know, all these other teams that you expect to win these games, even the Dolphins, have had dominant wins, and the Eagles have not had that yet. At least it doesn't feel like it. And I mean, beating the Niners would be a dominant win, even if it's by 1 point. But you know, it like the Bills game, overtime, right? The Commanders, they barely squeaked out a win against them. I'd have to really actually go back and look at the schedule, but you know, they haven't had that big scorched earth game, whereas the Niners have had multiple where they just dominate teams. And I think that's going to be the big question in this game is, you know, does the home field make a difference for the Eagles? Do they, I wouldn't say dominate, but beat the Niners? Can they dominate them? Or will the Niners dominate them? Because I can't help but think that the Niners dominating the Eagles is more likely than the Eagles dominating the Niners. You know?
Oh no, I think it's going to be a close game, like no matter what.
That's what I hope.
I think both teams really want this game because, I mean, you can say that about every NFL game, but like there's a history between the Niners and the Eagles because literally after the Niners lost to the Eagles, Deebo Samuel went talking shit about the Eagles and how they would have beat them if Brock Purdy played. I could absolutely see it. I could see it right now. The Niners don't win, and it's just like, all right, Eagles fans are going to talk. You know, they're going to talk regardless, but that would be that would be a big thing. And then it's going to be like this whole thing about, oh, just wait until we see in the playoffs. It was raining, you know, or, you know, a bunch of excuses, right? One way or another, there's going to be excuses. That's what like every single fan of like, you know, or every single fan base typically always makes when they lose. But I will say if it's like lightly sprinkling and it doesn't have an effect on like the way that the players are going to grip the ball, my pick is the Niners. But if it's like raining enough to the point where like, you know, the announcers are talking, oh, you know, the rain's starting to pick up on the field. Like if it's like a substantial amount of rain, you know, then I'm going to go ahead and pick the Eagles. If it's a substantial amount of rain. If it's like I guess we'll sort of we can come back to my prediction and like, you know, sort of gauge how we felt about the way that it played out. Like if the rain was a huge factor or not. If it didn't seem like the rain was a huge factor and the Niners, you know, ended up losing, you know, without like the rain being a huge factor, then I was just straight up wrong. You know, but the way I see it is the Niners are playing the Eagles at a right time, you know, at the correct time because, you know, like you said, one of their offensive linemen is out, Lane Johnson, right? That's one of their better.
I don't know if he's out, but he's injured, I think.
So, you know, they're playing the Eagles while they're, you know, sort of banged up. Yeah, you know, this is absolutely going to be a great game regardless. But we didn't have the podcast going at the time. Everyone was talking about how Niners Eagles in the playoffs was going to be a fantastic game. It feels like we're finally going to get it because we didn't really get it in the NFC Championship because Brock Purdy was injured. So I think Brock Purdy has a chip on his shoulder. I almost want to just take, just go with the Niners. I don't know. I feel like the rain plays a huge part if it does rain hard. Because then we're talking about more tush pushes and ground game. And if it's a battle of absolutely like in the trenches, I don't know if the Niners O line is going to be able to, hold it together against that Eagles front for a full
Right.
game.
Yeah, because I was gonna say the big thing about the Eagles matchup is like I've been saying for a few weeks, especially obviously during the losing streak, but even before that, like the Niners pass defense is kind of a pass funnel. Like they let shit go. Like they let you pass on them.
Mm-hmm.
But the Eagles are worse. Like as receivers and quarterbacks are having fun against the Eagles. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I can see this being a big Brock Purdy game. But yeah, I could see the weather also potentially, affecting that. But then again, you still have McCaffrey, you know. So I think the Niners kind of out tool them,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Uh, and I think that the Eagles haven't faced a team like the Niners. At the same time, I don't know if the Niners have faced a team like the Eagles. I kind of don't think so.
No.
So it is a
This is a
tough pick.
fantastic measuring stick game for both
Yeah,
teams.
yeah, and I hope it's close. And if it is close, then we know that it's proper and like that's what we want to see in the championship. You know.
I'm I'm so torn right now because I'm just like I want to just pick the Niners. I really want to just pick the Niners. Um, they are actually, I think, 1.5 point favorites in Vegas. So if my opinion changes depending on the weather, I'll tell Mike and then I'll adjust the spreadsheet accordingly. But as of right now, man, it would kill me if the it wouldn't kill me. I would be happy. But just prediction wise, because I like to be right, even though that 3-game losing streak, you can see it right there on the spreadsheet. Ah, man, I don't know why. My gut is telling me now it's going to be a heavy rain game, and the Niners are going to pull it out because they're going to rely heavily on Debo and McCaffrey. But then, yeah, I don't know. We will find out. And as of right now, I'm going Niners if no heavy rain or substantial. Like if it doesn't hinder performance. So, and Mike, you are
Yeah.
picking Niners. That's just straight up Niners.
Yeah, I'm picking straight up Niners. It would be fun to pick the Eagles and go up against you, but I I don't know. I see the Niners winning. I think the Niners win the regular season matchup, but if the NFC Championship is in Philadelphia, I could see it going the other way.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, do I make a change? Do I? Do I do it? 49ers is no heavy rain. Because
Like you're
here's the
debating
thing,
between just picking the Niners outright and not,
and
or
not
you're
having any
debating between
conditions.
picking the Eagles.
No, not having any
Right.
conditions
Yeah.
is the thing. I want to pick the Niners.
Mm.
I really want to pick the Niners, but I know better on how they play in the rain. And it's the same story every time, and it kills me that they don't prepare better in the rain. It absolutely it tears me apart. And I feel
Mm.
like such a fool because every single time I'm like, all right, it's gonna be different. It's gonna be different. You know, uh, it doesn't matter, rain, blah blah blah. And then Shanahan says this like, oh, we just prepare like a normal game. Like, oh my god, it's like they're doing something wrong for a heavy rain game every time. They don't prepare correctly, and it shows on the field. I'm gonna keep it like that. If I change my mind, I'll change it, and I will tell Mike, and then we'll have clarification. Okay. We'll see how the weather goes closer to game time. But yeah, I'm very excited to see this game. And, I hope that a lot of you didn't tune out with me contemplating for about like 5 minutes there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have anything else that you want to get off your chest, Mike. Maybe that ugly ass sweatshirt.
I don't really have anything else. I just I hope for a great game. I don't have to worry about the Raiders this weekend. I can just worry about hopefully watching a really good football game.
Oh, hold on.
So
hold on 1 second. And I just want to say, I don't like Nick Sirianni at all. I really want the Niners to win this game. Like, no excuses. No excuses at all. Whether it rains, whether it pours, I really want them to knock that smirk off of Nick Sirianni's face. He has such a punchable face. He's like, oh my God, dude. He's an asshole. I hate him. I don't like him. He acts like a clown. It's like, whether it be doing this to the camera during games or like, yelling at Chiefs fans after they beat the Chiefs. Like, yeah, I don't want to hear anything, Chiefs. Like, you lost to them in the Super Bowl. Did I lose you, Mike? Well, I guess that signifies the end of the episode. I don't like Nick Sirianni. See, Mike's wearing the Eagles sweatshirt, and it seems like we just lost Mike's connection. So, Sirianni lost Super Bowl. Just mentioned it. Mike lost. I'm telling you, that's what it is. But anyways, everybody, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll see how the game plays out. It's going to be an exciting... Oh, Mike's back. And Mike, this is my friend Mike. This is Frozen Mike. Oh, there goes Frozen Mike. Yeah, you saw that too, right?
I didn't see me up there. There was two of me?
There was two of you a second ago. Oh, maybe we'll see it on the replay. But, appreciate everybody for watching. Mike, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
No. May the best team win. And not like the Eagles are my team, just in general, I'm curious to see how the playoffs fill out, how the seeding goes, and of course also how the top 10 draft picks fill out and how that all goes. And as I've said, the coaching vacancies and hirings once we hit the offseason and everything. So those are the big three for me: the playoffs, the draft order, and the coaching changes. That's going to be interesting.
And I know a second ago I was just complaining about Nick Sirianni. And I know Eagles fans love it that nobody likes him. They love it.
Oh, he's perfect for them. He's so perfect for them. Yeah. And I don't know. Yeah, he's literally perfect for them. I feel like the Raiders need to find a guy who is perfect for them like he is to the Eagles. And not in the sense of like being a dick, but more of like just being a complete Raider, And Pierce is like kind of that, but also we need to win,
So you want a head coach who's going to like get a DUI?
Well, I would prefer more of like a John Madden,
Yeah, no, I'm joking. It's a poor taste joke, but yeah, a guy like John Madden would be cool. And I mean, not to compare Harbaugh to John Madden, but like, Harbaugh would be the guy I would go with if I were the Raiders. And there's not going to be another John Madden. So
I could definitely see Harbaugh fitting the Raiders perfectly because former Raider, he has the big name and all that, so it would get attention, I feel like the Raiders like that, so I could absolutely see it.
Mm-hmm. All right, everyone. Until next week, we appreciate you guys, and peace. Have a good week.
Peace.